Tom, good morning. How are you?
Good, good. How are you this morning?
You all right? You there?
What?
Hey, kind of went out a little bit on me. I don't know if it's my internet or your internet, but
I
today
think it was yours. I'm good to go.
we have a busy day today. We have Vier Cuatro, that's four in German and Spanish, for Breeders' Cup Challenge Win in Your In races. We got three of them at Saratoga. The personal Ensign, that's going to put the winner into the distaff, the Ballerina, the filly and mare sprint, the sword dancer, the turf. And then over at Del Mar, you have the Pat O'Brien Stakes, which I think is going to put the winner in my favorite named race of all, the Big Ass Fans Dirt Mile. Now, does that mean that they're big assed or that they're just big fans or both?
I remember this company when I lived in Lexington and saw this. They make huge fans to cool warehouses, and that's where the name comes from.
All right.
I mean, they make fans that are 60, 80 feet wide in diameter. They're not putting fans up that you're putting in your bedroom to sleep at night.
I thought they were either commenting on the fans, that the fans were either big bottomed or they were just huge horse racing fans, but they're actual fans, huh?
Yes, it's an actual fan company, and they're located very close to Keeneland, and we're solicited to become a sponsor and started with the local track at Keeneland. And then when they expanded this Breeders' Cup program from 1 day to 2, was one of the local sponsors that the Breeders' Cup there with their offices in Lexington got to bring into play.
All right. So that explains that name for sure. That was an interesting name to me. So we're going to start in we'll start at Del Mar with the Pat O'Brien Stakes, and then we'll work our way backwards, kind of like the weather, the jet stream. We'll be coming from the west coast all the way to the east coast. Does that sound like a good way to go?
Wonderful.
All right. Just want to make sure we're both on the same page right away. So let's go ahead and get started with the Pat O'Brien Stakes. So as I do all the time, I put together a profile of a winner. So let's go ahead and pull up the profile of a winner for the Pat O'Brien Stakes. You'll see that the favorites have dominated recently, winning the last 3 and 5 of the last 6. In the last 10 years, the chalk, if it didn't score, it finished second 3 times and off the board in the other 2. So you want to have the favorite at the top of your ticket. That'll probably be who you think your favorite's going to be. CZ Rocket?
Yes, yes.
And then 8 of the last 10 Pat O'Brien winners left from the middle post and out. But that's relative to the field size because there's been a lot of very short fields in the Pat O'Brien. Masochistic wore number 3, but there are only 3 horses in the field. So that's an outside post while being an inside post at the same time. Kind of deceptive. Right. And 6 of the 10 winners were considered early speed, with 3 going wire to wire. But 2 of the wire to wire fields were in fields of only 3 and 4 deep. In fields are 6 or more, the stalkers and closers won all but 1. So I think the fields is supposed to be a little bit deeper than 3 or 4 this year, but hopefully there won't be a whole bunch of scratches. So let's take a quick look at what the profile of what the pace might set up. It looks like 8 Rings might be on top on the way out, followed by Brickyard Ride, and then Howbeit, Flagstaff, Mimosa, CZ Rocket will be the ones flying late. Do you see anything in there that you disagree with, Tom?
I think that Classier is going to have to go. I don't think 8 Rings, the other Baffert horse, is going to go. I think Classier will be the one to go with Brickyard Ride. I think Brickyard Ride is the speediest of the speed. That horse is, in his last 7 races at first and second call has been in front. And then I think they'll all kind of fall into place behind that. So.
All right. So that's how you see that one playing out. So let's go ahead and take a look real quick. As I mentioned, we have to hustle today because we got 4 races to cover. So the Pat O'Brien Stakes is 7 furlongs on the main track. Talking to Trevor McCarthy last week, he had said that there's a dominant speed bias this year at Del Mar on the dirt. But if you're on the grass, it's a death sentence to be up front. So take us through the field and what you think is going to happen, Tom.
First of all, I think it's very interesting that a 1-turn 7 furlong race is a prep for a Breeders' Cup race. It's a 2-turn 1-mile race. Historically, what you've seen is most of your winners of this race has opted to run in the Breeders' Cup Sprint as opposed to the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. At Golden Sense, horse I was a big fan of is the only horse in my research I saw that won this race that's actually done anything going in the mile, but there's been 3 past winners of the Breeders' Cup Sprint that are alumni of this race. Looking at the field, you look at number 1, Ginobili. I know on paper, one of the most visually impressive performances of the meet was opening weekend, but you got to throw that out and draw a line. That horse was out in the middle of the racetrack going 2 turns that day. There's no way this horse is going to be able to get that same trip from the rail. It will not have the lead at second call by 7 lengths. Obviously, even with that dominant of a performance, it gets a new rider today. I just think it's up against it. It's run 2 decent races, but it's trying to go that optional claiming 40 to a grade 2. So I just think this horse is really up against it.
All right. And then howbeit,
actually the trainer preferred to enter this horse in a 3 other than, and the race did not go. So he's one of the second leading trainer at the meet. They're rolling the dice and taking a play here, but is not a good fit.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you, but the last couple of races have been pretty strong at Del Mar, so we'll see. Number 3, Surfing Star, looks like another one that's in over its head. In the what were we saying last week? The song, I forget. The Simply Unforgettable. That Simply Unforgettable.
Can't hit the board against optional claimers at 62. We're not going to run well in a grade 2. Next,
nope. Mimosa.
This horse has a real upset chance, has been real consistent lately. 2 back, beat CZ Rocket in the Steve Sexton mile. I do think that horse was improved with Lasix, but this horse could fly under the board and hit the board at a decent price. Michael Makers had a real good summer.
Mm-hmm. He has. I'd see that the Lasix last time out kind of faded on him a little bit at the end. So kind of the opposite of the angle I like to see. I like to see horses that have speed, then get Lasix. Speed, fade, and then get Lasix, not get Lasix and then come off it, speed, and fade. So I would be worried about this one fading a little bit at the end. 8 Rings. Does it look like 8 Rings has found his mojo?
No, 8 Rings they named this horse as a Coolmore named this horse for Tom Brady and the number of Super Bowl rings he had. This horse had a lot of hype, was a Derby contender, just has not done much. But if you look, this horse has never ran in an easy race. The Breeders' Cup Juvenile, the Del Mar Futurity, Bing Crosby grade 2s, grade 1s. Did run second in the Bing Crosby at 6 furlongs. I don't think this horse can stretch out and be effective.
The Dr. Shivel horse is some friends of the show. Dean and Patty Reeves are part owners of that horse. Great people. If you ever meet them, I think 8 Rings does have a crack at it because if you look at those workouts, he's putting a bunch of bullets up. So I do remember him on the Derby Trail the last year at the Breeders' Cup when he went up against Dennis's Moment. That was supposed to be the preview for the next year's Kentucky Derby, and we never heard from either one of them again. So maybe he's getting it together. Classier is another Baffert horse. He's making a start. Hasn't run since July 4th. One that's put a bullet work on. Perhaps a little bit of a stretch too.
Only chance this horse has is to go gate to wire, and will not happen with this crowd.
Probably not. I agree with you. So a Brickyard Ride, based upon the comments when I put up the pace projection, sounds like one that maybe you have an eye for.
I have an eye for it because it's kind of one of those, like we drive by and see a wreck going the other way on the interstate and look at it. This horse always gets in the lead, is very inconsistent. You never know what's going to happen. Last time out, it took the field all the way mid-stretch and just literally stopped. The time before in a little state bred race, kept it going and ran the 6 furlong, had a 13-point difference in speed figures. You never know what you're going to get with this horse, but I just don't see this horse stepping up and going against the class of this field. I think it's a step late.
Mm-hmm. Flagstaff. This is a veteran that's done fairly well for itself. Is it maybe getting a little long in the tooth?
Well, you would think, but go back and look at this horse, what it ran in June. Ran its darn near a career high speed figure. It took on Ferenz Fire at Belmont Park, which you just don't do, and looked very good. The time before that, went to Churchill on Derby Day, beat Lexingtonian and beat Whitmore. And Lexingtonian came back and has had a good summer. Mm-hmm. Then won the Commonwealth as the prep at Keeneland. I'm not the biggest John Sagler fan around. I know this horse had tested positive at one point in one of his races. But I think this horse is running well. It's in better form than last year when it ran second in this race. I think it's going to get a good shot, and this is a real contender.
Yeah, it's done well at Del Mar and at the distance. 4 out of 5 on the board at Del Mar, and then 5 out of 6 on the board, 4 of them being wins at the distance. So it seems like 7 furlongs, which is kind of like a weird, kind of reminds me of 7 furlongs is kind of like a catch weight in boxing, right? It's just, it's not uncommon, but it's not, usually it's 6 furlongs or a mile. CZ Rocket. This is a horse, I think, that won this spot last year, right? And you think it's going to be a beat Flagstaff. You think a CZ Rocket will represent on Breeders' Cup Day out of this squad?
It will be. Well, if this horse returns to the form it did last year, most definitely, even earlier in the year when it won the Count Fleet in the Hot Springs Little Overnight Stakes race. This horse just has been a little slow in the way it's moved kind of laterally this year. And that was the key to it winning this race last year. It got right up with Flagstaff in the stretch and had the first jump on this horse. Now, 7 furlongs is this horse's best distance, and Florent Giroux comes to the West Coast to ride this horse on this day. So if you just said, Tom, you got one horse to pick, I'm going to have to land on this horse and give him another shot. So,
California Street, simply unforgettable.
Nope, couldn't be 20,000 claimers. But we got things to do better than talk about this horse. So
we got to make up time. So real quick, what's your order?
I will go the 9 CZ Rocket. I will go 4 Mo Mesa. I will go 8 Flagstaff.
Me, I'm putting CZ Rocket on top. I think 8 Rings is back, but do they have to change it now because of Brady? It's getting more rings. I like Flagstaff, and then number 2, Howbeit. So that wraps out my top 4. Now we're going to get on the jet, and we're going to fly across the country at record speed to the Ballerina Stakes or Handicap. That's big favorite likely in this spot in Gamine, right? It's a 3 to 5 morning line. You think that number will be 3 to 5, or do you think the number is going to go down?
No, I think she'll be 2 to 5. I don't think she'll be 1 to 5. I think she'll be 2 to 5 when it all said and goes in the gate. I was very surprised in a handicap. This horse was not either carrying more weight or other horses were not carrying lesser weight. I truly think this racing secretary, if it wouldn't be for the trainer of this horse, and wouldn't been worried about the press criticism of singling out poor little Bobby Bafford, he with his 30 drug positives, this horse should carry 130, 132 pounds in this spot, minimum.
Well, let's take a look at the profile of a Ballerina Handicap winner. Maybe there'll still be big trouble for me because the favorites only won 3 of the last 10 Ballerina Handicaps, but 2 of them were in the last 3 years. However, the post-time choice did hit the board in 7 of the last 10, so it's probably a good idea to put back Gamine maybe in the backdoor exacta. Early Speed has won 4 of the last 10, with 3 taking it the field from gate to wire. And Artemis Argotera riding shotgun at the quarter pole. Otherwise, 5 of the other 6 stalked the leader, with Unbridled Forever going from worst to first in a 7-horse field. This is another one that you only get like 6 or 7 horses in. It's never really a pretty big field. The inside 2 posts have won 5 of the last 10 Ballerina, with the rail getting 3 champs and 2 for the number 2 position. So looking at the pace for this particular spot, it does look to me like you're going to have Gamine on the lead, Lake Avenue, Estilo Talentoso, Truth Hurts, Sconson, CC, and Casual. And on the way home, looks like Casual and the Estilo Talentoso. I would like to say that one. You see anything in these paces that you disagree with?
No, I think this is Gamine head and shoulders above everybody else as far as a pace play. I think she's going to get out and be able to dictate the terms.
Mm-hmm. So let's go ahead and run through the field real quick on this one, Tom, and see what you think is going to be the case. As we mentioned, Gamine is on the rail. It's a speed horse. Last win by 10. 1 run at Saratoga. Won that race as well. You think that Gamine gets to the front, stays in the front, and never sees the backside of another horse?
I think this horse gets to the front. I don't think there's anybody that's going to chase this horse. As much as I'd love to take a stand against this horse and play the 7 on the outside, I just a pace play never see this horse getting, getting beat. Obviously, the California junior varsity squad that it beat at that race at Los Al, you can't look at that race by 10, but it was a punch button you head by 4 at the top of the stretch, and within 40 yards was 12 lengths up on this field. This horse did gut it out in the Derby City Distaff in a race that I thought should have lost. I really don't understand how this horse was able to keep her speed that far in this race. I'm using that as the benchmark for thinking this horse, really can go where it is. So.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's take the next horse in that spot. Oh, I accidentally closed it out. So I'm doing myself some real good work today. So what do you think of the next horse?
Well, Lake Avenue is owned by Godolphin and trained by Bill Mott. And quite honestly, that's about all I can say positive about it. It's a very good horse. It's just not a good fit here. It does like the 7 furlong distance, but it's not run 7 furlong against this quality of people, quality of horses. Grade 2, grade 3 quality, can hold their own. There's an opportunity. The barn took a shot at it. It's just not a good fit.
Not the best fit. And then number 3, Casual. It looks like to me it could be the one that's coming home the fastest late. A little bit of success maybe at the distance with a win in 2/3 and 4 tries, but maybe another one that's I think Asmussen usually brings his horses ready.
I just don't think he's got I think the horse will be ready. I just don't think this horse is as talented as it needs to be to step up with this crew. And he needed a spot to run this horse. This horse has never run in graded company before, unless you go back to the Acorn last year where it got beat by 32 lengths by Gamine. So it's just
that was close. I think Gamine might not beat me by 32 lengths.
Yeah.
Well, maybe the next one is probably more accurate that it wouldn't beat me by 32 lengths, but Truth Hurts. Another one that's simply unforgettable.
I will quote Rick Pitino when he said Larry Bird's not walking through this door. Chad Summers was a young trainer, and the first horse he got was one his dad found named Mind Your Biscuits, that in his first race that Chad Summers was the trainer, won a race on the UAE Derby undercard, and that was a wonderful horse and did great. But if you look back, they tried to take this horse to turf, experimented by putting front wraps on him. Not a chance. Don't know why she's here.
Yeah. Wisconsin, this horse will be coming pretty late. I've got some good memories of this one.
Dug in tough against this horse on Derby Day. Darn near pulled off the upset in the Derby City Distaff, beating Gamine. Came back, ran a couple of okay races at Churchill. I think this horse is a much better horse at Churchill. He's never been to Saratoga before and has been training at Ellis Park. Mm-hmm. I don't even like the fact there's not a local work for this horse.
I would like to see that too. I would like to see that. Mm-hmm. I would absolutely love to see a work on that. Here's my favorite named horse. I think this has become my favorite horse in the world. Estilo Talentoso. I feel like that and Hurricane Lane are becoming my favorite horses.
This horse is a perennial bridesmaid, 9 seconds and 15 starts. It dances all the big races, but it never closes out and wins. Has all kinds of excuses why it doesn't win, but, did beat Lake Avenue for a grade 3 victory 2 back in the Bed of Roses, but just not there. The most important thing this horse could do is on paper, if you go back to last year, could jump out from the gate and make Gamine work hard on the front end. It's the only effect this horse is going to have on the field.
Well, it did finish behind Gamine only by 2.5 lengths when they met a few races back. So maybe it can make up a difference. Tough to say. I do like the fact that there's a bullet work, but again, not working out at Saratoga, which I would have liked to seen. I'm not a real big fan of Delaware to Saratoga kind of moves. CC, real nice race last time out at Gulfstream Park. But
yeah,
working out at Del Mar pretty well, but I don't know. Again, no works locally.
No, nothing locally. McCarthy flies his horses across country. You know what? I can't criticize his ability to do that because he won the Preakness that way. So I'm going to give him a pass and say, more about it than I do. Obviously, he was there at Saratoga for years working for Fletcher, so he knows the nuances of the racetrack. Horse is 2 for 3 at the distance. I do think this horse, talent-wise, if somebody can make Gamine work, could come and try and pick up some of the pieces. Has run longer races, ran 9 furlongs in the Distaff last year. Didn't really embarrass herself. Ran within 5 lengths of Monomoy Girl in a race nobody expected her to really fare well in. So
it's that time. What are your picks?
Regrettably, I have to pick Gamine because I don't see anybody that can do that and jump on a 2 to 5 horse and would play that horse over CC. Thought long and hard about switching them the other way, but I would play that as a
ice cold. Go ahead.
As a flip it over exact and hope I get it either way.
So yeah, I have Gamine and CC as my top two horses too. I think Gamine is catching a field that she should be able to beat pretty easily. Estilio Talentoso is my third choice, and then Sconson is the fourth on my roster. We 2 down and 2 to go. So let's take a look at the next race on the card. At the we're going to go to the personal Ensign Stakes at Saratoga. We're jumping ahead to race number 10. This one's 1 1/8 miles on the main track. Let's go ahead and take a look at what the profile of a winner of a Ensign Stakes winner looks like. And horse players are usually pretty good at picking the winner in this one because the chalk won 4 of the last 10, and the runner-up, and the chalk was runner-up 5 of the other 6 times. So it's been a race again where we seem to get a lot of shorter fields with 9 of the last 10 gating 6 or less horses. So not surprisingly, the inside 3 horses have done very well. And close to the front has been the best of the approaches. 7 of the last 10 get the hardware to grab that trophy. We're in the first 3 at the quarter pole. Again, not surprising considering there's a short field there. And let's take a look at how the pace might play out. I don't think there's any question who's going to be on the lean of this one. Do you?
No, nobody's going to get, Latruska's going to be out there and somebody's going to have to go with her. And I have an interesting thought in that is that I think it might be Swiss Skydiver. I don't see Harvey's Little Goyle on dirt being nearly as fast. I think that Harvey's Little Goyle on dirt likes to run from the back of the pack. Those speed figures on turf kind of make her look like having more speed than she does.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think Latruska gets to the front. On the way home, Royal Flag. So what's interesting to me is when you look at the late pace figures, Latruska is not only going to be the one that gets out of the gate the fastest, but she has some of the best strides late as well, which if you're on the lead and you can outrun everybody anyway in the lane, looks to me like maybe a wire-to-wire win. So a little bit chalky in our picks so far. Let's go ahead and take a look at the field here. Dunbar Road is on the rail. You think any chance that they go out fast and Dunbar Road can use its closing ability to find her way into the winner's circle?
No, Dunbar, this horse has made $1.2 million and won 6 of her first 9. She's lost 4 in a row. She's just, I think, heading down the wrong way. Part of it is they've run her against the toughest horses around. She ran 3rd last year in the distaff. It's not that she's not a talented horse, but you can't keep asking a horse to do something, she doesn't really know how to do.
Mm-hmm. As time goes by, unfortunately, way too fast. In the words of Bob Seger, 20 years, man, where did they go?
Yep. Typical Bob Baffert horse works great in the mornings. It's taking a real step up in the afternoon. They were coming out with Gamine. They threw her on the plane. Horses run better sometimes when they're not sitting around the barn by themselves. Mike Smith's in town to ride Life is Good for the new trainer, Todd Pletcher. They threw her in here, but I'm not expecting much.
Yeah, me either. Never. The next horse, Bonnie South. I know this horse was a huge favorite at the Delaware Handicap and really disappointed. Got smoked by another horse in this field, Miss Marissa. I don't like that form last time out, and I'm really not a big fan, as I've mentioned many times, of that Delaware angle, but did run at Keeneland, Belmont, so has run at some big races. A bullet work, 2 back. Any chance that Bonnie South can rehabilitate herself here?
Well, if you look at the Cox barn this year, there's been a lot of just head-scratching races where there really wasn't anything wrong. Go back and look at what happened in the Louisiana Derby with Mandaloon. Ran one of the worst races I've seen a thoroughbred run ever that, I wasn't a trainer or owner of. And comes back, and everybody thought this horse was for dead, and come back and win the Derby. So, I think if there's a horse that's going to beat Latruska, other than the horse to the outside, it's going to be one of these 2, the 3 or the 4.
Next one is Swiss Skydiver. This is a horse that's not facing Menominee Girl. It's not facing the boys here either. So there's no Knicks Go or Maxfield in this field. But it is facing Latruska. And last time up against Latruska, kind of got beat around a little bit.
Well, you got to realize Swiss Skydiver was more focused on Monomoy Girl that day than Latruska and the Apple Blossom. Put herself down on the rails. She likes to run from the outside. It just really wasn't a good effort. And if you notice, Mr. Alvarado has not been back to ride this horse, and he's toiling at Ellis Park on this Saturday afternoon. So I'm sure he wouldn't mind jumping on the plane and coming to New York if he had the chance. They went to IRAD last time and asked this horse to do the impossible and go out and take Nick's Go head on in a 2-turn race. A boy, a girl, a rocket ship, a quarter horse, whatever couldn't get that done. I think you're going to see this horse come back to the Swiss Skydiver that we know. There's been a lot of quarantine issues in the barn at the start of the meet. I think all of that's finally passed. You look at the good work the last time on the tab. I think we're ready to go.
I think that good work too is a signal to me that maybe Swiss Skydiver is ready to get back in form. My only concern is not a fan of the distance. 4 times, just a pair of seconds, no wins, and 2 times off the board. So maybe the distance is a little much for her.
If you look back, they ran 9 furlongs in the Breeders' Cup Distaff, and she stumbled at the start. Before that, she ran 1 mile and 1/8 in the Oaks and finished second, surprisingly, to She Dares the Devil, which we later found out you can't beat at Churchill. And then she turned around 2 weeks later and ran 1 mile and 3/16 and beat Authentic and the boys in the Preakness. So I'm not concerned about distance of this one at all. I mean, she won the Alabama at 1.25 miles last summer on this racetrack. So, the Bluegrass, she ran second against the boys. I mean,
she definitely had a great year last year, but
what?
She had a great year last year. In the words of Bruce Springsteen, glory days, my friend. Royal Flag, number 5, Joel Rosario. I like Joel Rosario, especially on horses that come from the back to the front. Seems like every time Joel beats me, he's not on the screen, and then all of a sudden he's on the screen getting me at the wire. Royal Flag should be coming pretty hard at the end. Just missed against Latruska when they matched up at the Shuvi last year at Saratoga by a length. Maybe can make up that length in this spot. Yes, no, maybe.
Latruska wasn't the same horse at this point last year. This horse has been winner place of last 5 races. I think she could hit the bottom end of the board, but I think a win's way out of the question. Now, Brown's been winning races and been real hot the last couple of weeks, but it is where it is.
She's like Saratoga, winning a second in 2 tries, and the distance is 2 wins and a second in 3 runs. So I kind of like that. All right, here we go. Latruska. Do we need to say anything? Gets to the front, stays at the front, has the best early pace figures, second best late pace figures. Just put it on the board. Nothing but bullet works. I mean, this horse looks like if the jockey doesn't, if the irons don't break or doesn't, try to eat a little bit of dirt before the race starts, I don't see Latruska not winning.
I think Swiss Skydiver will turn the tables on her today, but there's no knocks you can make against this horse. So it is what it is.
Miss Marissa, another that can add to the early pace. So that might be the one thing that can upset Latruska is Miss Marissa and some others get up, put a lot of pressure on Latruska, run a little bit too fast, and then tail off. Do you think Miss Marissa could take her form from Delaware, my favorite angle, to Saratoga?
I think nobody was more surprised than the rider last time that he fell into the lead in this horse at the Delaware Handicap, and that they ran it in 50 seconds for the first half. I think the first half today is going to be somewhere, and I don't want to play time, but it's going to be about 47.5 to 48.5. This horse isn't that fast. It's deceiving on paper.
Mm-hmm. Harvey's Little Goyle, the 8 horse.
I like this horse, a very classy horse. People think of this horse as one-dimensional, but remember she ran the Alabama last year and finished 3rd, didn't embarrass herself, and has never beaten Swiss Skydiver on the dirt. I weighed with making her my upset play here at about 10-1, but I'm going to go with another way. But I think, she'd be in my top 3.
Yeah, I think she's got a good shot at it. This is a horse that always seems to show up at the big, the big events, so to speak. So many times I've seen Harvey's Little Goyle in the past performances and had her 2nd or 3rd or 4th or sometimes off my top picks, and only to have it upset me in some way, shape, or form. Graceful Princess. There's a few folks that I know that pointing to Graceful Princess as a horse that has a chance here. Maybe.
I could see the horse having a chance. I just, never ran 1.1 miles before. I just don't see I just don't see it. I know I've heard some people say some good things about this horse. I think this horse is a good horse. I just don't see it being a good fit with this group.
Mm-hmm. The one thing I'm beginning to like is that Monmouth to another track angle, because the horses don't get any encouragement at Monmouth. Then he's going to come to Saratoga and get some encouragement from John Velasquez. And what's really interesting to me, too, is that late pace figure in the last race just blew off the chart. And again, that's without any using of the crop by the jockey. So if that's the new form, then Graceful Princess is coming that hard again late. I think Graceful Princess could be one that finds her way into making many a ticket a loser if you don't have her on it. And unfortunately, I don't have her on it. But who do you like in this spot? Time to make your picks.
Swiss Skydiver over Harvey's Little Goyle, Bonnie South, and Latruska.
Wow. So you're going for the big upset. Latruska out of the trifecta. I think Latruska is.
I think this is the day we're gonna, end the Latruska possibly lobbying for Horse of the Year ballots.
Well, yeah.
Go either winner or be off the board.
The graveyard of favorites for sure. Well, I have Latruska. I like Royal Flag. My long shot is Dunbar Road. I think that horse will be trucking late. And Swiss Skydiver, I'm afraid she's going to try to go chase Latruska, and this pace will be too fast for her. And just like last time when she tried to chase the pace, she'll fade a little bit at the end, and some of the late chargers might get her by a neck or a head bob. It'll be close at the wire, but that early pace could chew her up and make it very difficult. So we're making great time today. We're going to go off to the last race of the day that we have of the four. And that is the Sword Dancer Stakes. This one I find a very interesting race because it's a 1.5 miles on the inner turf. And looking back at some previous Sword Dancer Stakes, hold on, let me get the right sheet up because there's too many different ones on here. When you're trying to manage all these things at the same time, makes it always kind of interesting, Tom, to be pressing 14 different buttons at once and make sure you press the right one. This is odds are if the chalk doesn't score, it's going to finish out of the money. The Public's Choice at post time has won half of the last 10 and ran second once, but the other 4, bye-bye. And the 7 of the last 10 were closers, running fifth and out at the quarter pole, with all 10 fields being at least 7 deep. So this one actually does get a number of runners. And I think when I looked at the post position, I think every number in the last 10 years, I think for maybe like 8, but for the most part, they've come from inside, outside. They've come from all over the place. So it doesn't really matter where your horse lines up. It has a chance to win, provided, it's got the class to do it. And finally, let's take a look at the pace on this one. I have Moretti on top. Last night when we talked about this on the Player's Edge podcast, I got all kinds of beaten up by folks. Channel Maker, Tribhuven, everybody thought Tribhuven be the horse that will be on the lead and not give it up. And then on the way home, to me, it looks like cross-border, Tribhuven and Gufo should be coming the hardest late. Anything you see here that makes you want to beat me up too?
I just think Tribhuven's the lone speed here. Moretti's speed has been on the dirt, going 1 3/4 and 1.5 miles. I don't think that with this horse, it's first time on turf. I don't think that they're going to put him that far into the front. I don't think Channel Maker is as fast as Tribhuven, so I think this is Tribhuven's race to try and control on the front end.
All right, so we'll go ahead now and take a look at the horses. It's, as I said, 1.5 miles on the inner turf. Tribhuven is the rail horse. The rail, like I said, doesn't really matter at this particular distance, but speed has not been the way to win most of these, and this horse absolutely will 100% be up front, I think, as well. One of the early pace setters.
This is horse is just coming into his own. He's learning how to win in the USA. Had a horrible record in his first 15 wins outside of the country with only 3 wins. Has won 2 of the last 4, the United Nations and the Fort Marcy. So you're talking a grade 1 and a grade 2. Not beating slouches of horses. There's not a lot I can criticize about this horse. I just think this horse is going to get on the front end, and he's never run this far before. I just don't think he can take this field 12 furlongs with 3 turns and 3 long straightaways.
Yeah, I think it's going to be tough. That's why the winner has mostly come from off the pace. Gufo is, I love that name too, Gufo. This horse, this is one that seems to me like it's coming into its own. It's in, well, I can't even say it's been in the money 11 out of 11 races. And if you look at it, minus the 2 races back at the Manhattan, is no more than a head or a neck or a nose or a whisker away from winning almost all of its races.
Clement did a great training job. Christophe Clement did a great training job on this horse. Not only is he a great turf trainer, with the change in the calendar last year and running the Belmont Derby instead of July 4th, ran it in early October as the Breeders' Cup prep. He gave this horse some time off, and this horse grew, matured, came back, won a grade 1 at 3, and since that point has been right there, has never been embarrassed. I mean, this horse ran within 4 lengths of domestic spending in the Manhattan, and will come from last. Even when they put the blinkers on last time, still came from last, but it did wake this horse up.
Mm-hmm. Anecdotally, for me, just watching these inner turf races, it seems to me like Christophe Clement is almost a specialist at that inner turf race. So many times I've seen him win on that inner turf. Rock Emperor, last night we were talking about Rock Emperor, and not a lot of folks were on Rock Emperor. I like this horse. I think it's run fairly well. Got Irad Ortiz, Chad Brown. You can never really go wrong with that combination in New York. Do you think
Rock all the big dances, but he's only won 3 times in 18 starts, and you don't see that out of a typical Chad Brown horse. This horse has made $600,000 in his career. Would love to have him in my barn, but to think that this horse is going to this finds a way to lose races. Horses are herd animals looking elsewhere.
Well, I don't expect him to win, but I do think he's got a good crack at filling out your exacta or trifecta tickets. Channel Maker, I think this horse was in this spot last year, got on the lead, probably going to try to do what Tribhuven is going to try to do. Got out to the lead, got off to a nice, easy lead, and just Manny Franco took this horse from gate to wire and extended the lead at the finish line. Any chance that the horse can do it again, or did that trip to Saudi Arabia just take out and the United Arab Emirates take everything out of this horse?
This horse just got very good for a 90-day period last year, starting in this race, and concluded from when this horse, almost pulled the upset in the Breeders' Cup turf. The horse got a lot of conditioning and needed the last race after the trip to Dubai, but just is not fast enough to be on the lead with the inside horse Tribhuven. And this horse has to have the lead to be effective. This horse does not come. If this horse isn't winning in the front end, this horse is not going to win a race. So
yeah, it just looks to me like that trip out to United Arab Emirates. Something happened out there. Mishrif. I mean, that's just an incredibly good horse. So, and then when he comes back, so maybe a lot of times that first race comes back, it's a dull race, and then you see a response back in the second race afterwards.
Always play against a horse the first trip back from Dubai. Mm-hmm. That race, that plane ride over and that plane ride back takes so much out of you as a person. I can only imagine a person at 230 pounds takes 2-3 days to hydrate and recover.
230, come on, man. How many you taking off?
What?
230, come on. How many you taking off?
Me?
I'm just busting your chops, my friend.
I was 230 when I made the trip, okay? It took me 3 days to feel like a human. And I mean, I've done the Honolulu to St. Louis thing the other way, 8 hours in the air, and it really didn't affect me. And this just – if it's for me at that, an animal that's 5 times that size, they just take 3-4 months to recover from that.
Yeah, I agree. I see so many of them come back. But the thing I was looking at, so, okay, fine. Made that big trip, came out dull. How do the works look post that? And the works have just been slow. So I don't know about the Channel Maker's chance to have any chance to come back and repeat.
Mott's never going to win any awards for working his horses fast in the morning. He's like Asmussen. So I just don't think this horse is the same. This horse is 7. This horse just isn't, this horse isn't 5 anymore.
146 out of 160. I mean, that's slow. Moretti is the 5 horse. One I think has a chance to be up on the lead, but is trying to first on grass. Not a bad angle for Todd Pletcher. Wins at 18%. But there is some word that there's going to be some bad weather, perhaps at Saratoga on tomorrow or Saturday. So if there's some bad weather, and they'll probably run this race on the turf anyhow, but if it's too wet, gets on the sloppy dirt, maybe Moretti does get to the lead and win.
I think that's why this horse is entered here. I think the barn's doing a big rain dance right now. So, but I just can't see them. It's the second to last weekend of the meet. I can't see them worried about the turf course that they're going to risk downgrading this from a grade 1 to a grade 2 to run it on the dirt.
Probably not. Japan, the international invader. Surprisingly, international Tom, 22-1 Tom, who's on the Player's Edge podcast with us. He's a big fan of these international horses, and he was not a big fan of Japan. Maybe the owners aren't a big fan of that $1.8 million price tag, considering it's only won $2.18 million. But I feel it's like this horse, you got Aidan O'Brien and Ryan Moore, and it's probably not their best horse, but I can't imagine he's going to spot a horse they think doesn't have a chance.
I got to tell you, when you've got a horse that's Galileo's the dad, $1.8 million is the sale of the century. What's his name? Jim, whatever, with the bad sport coats hosting this horse. This horse is a stallion with those things is a whole bunch more value than that. Look at the last time out. Now, this horse at 3 won a couple of Group 1s. He always runs better for Ryan Moore. He's kind of settled in, kind of had an average 4-year-old year, but they ran him so far above his head. They run him this year. He's run a couple of Group 3s. He won last time carrying 140 pounds and held off a big challenge. He's going to get 20 pounds less today. We talk about Gamine with a weight break. This horse is going to have a huge weight break. The fact that Ryan Moore jumps on the plane and flies over here to ride this horse today instead of staying at the meet over in Europe, that tells me all I need to know about this horse. O'Brien shipped in 4 or 5 the last week at Belmont, won the two grass races. I think this horse is a real threat.
I like it too. Cross Border. I think this horse will be coming hard. 3rd time off a layoff. But to me, the one thing that stands out about this horse is it is what is the proverbial horse for the course. 7 times across the Saratoga track, 6 wins and a second, but that second was the second by a neck. So it could be undefeated in 7, take it off Saratoga, run 28 times, only managed to find the winner's circle 4. Horse for the course. I love course fits in doing my handicapping. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just that Saratoga Springs atmosphere in the summer that brings out the best in Cross Border.
Well, Maker's having a good year. He spots his horse as well. But yes, this horse has really been on fire at Saratoga. I don't like the fact the horse is 0 for 5 at the distance, but long story short, it's kept really good company at the distance. I do think on a pace play scenario, if you draw this thing up, it's going to be just like it was the last race. It's going to be right there, ready to make a move as they run down the lane like you did last time. So
I agree with that. It's one of my favorites in this spot. That wraps up the field for the that's just, I forget what race we're on. This is right there on the screen too. The Sword Dancer. It's like when I'm looking for my glasses, sometimes I'm like, kids, have you seen my glasses? Have you seen my glasses? And I have them on the top of my head. So forgive me for being old. All right. It's that time again to make your picks. Tom, I love Carly. Who do you like here?
I'm going to go with Gufo over Japan, and I really struggled. I could have flipped it either way. And I know I'm a big Aidan O'Brien fan, and I just don't want our viewers to say, oh, that's who we picked it, and that's what swayed it. So I'm going to play defensive and go Gufo over Japan with Cross Border, and I'll leave it at that. I
got the same 3 horses, maybe in a little different order. As I said, I love that. That's one of my favorite horse for the course things. Cross Border, because that record's a little funny, you might get some decent odds on that one outside of doesn't win a lot except when it's at Saratoga. I like Japan. The weight break that you pointed out, I think, is a huge catch there that maybe a lot of handicappers are going to miss. Gufo, you can't argue with that horse's record. Never missed the board in 11 races. And like I said, just a couple of head bobs away from maybe winning most of them or all of them. I do think Tribhuvan will have a shot to get up on that front and maybe repeat what we saw last year in this spot. But again, I do think that history says that the speed will fade at the end, and that's probably what will happen there. So we were able to wrap that up pretty fast, Tom. 4 races, 45 minutes. What do you think?
That's pretty good.
I agree with you.
I think it's a nice pace.
Mm-hmm. I think next week there's one more race, right? If I remember correctly, there's a race next week for the Breeders' Cup. I think maybe 2. So Tom and I will be back to discuss those next Friday, same time, same YouTube channel. Later on today, in approximately 2 hours, I'll be on with Tom, 22-1 Tom, to talk about some international races. There's 5 of them. a couple over in England and Ireland, I think, and then one over in Australia. So you'll have to be up late for that one, but maybe there's some late birds in here. And then tomorrow, of course, we'll be doing the handicapping contest at Saratoga for the Travers. Make sure you join me and Terry. That'll kick off with the first race, about 10 minutes to post. We'll walk through some of the very same things you saw here for every single race. What the profile of a winner at the distance looks like at Saratoga for the surface. And then we'll go through the pace setup, run down every single horse in the field, and then make our picks. Tom, as always, a pleasure. A lot of fun, a lot of interesting takes. I look forward to next week. And until we catch up with everybody again, as always, good luck at the track. And may we see you in the Breeders' Cup Winners Circle.